Hello everyone, I am going to do the next ZigZag task I haven't done, and that is task number 7. Task number 7 is this one. We want to extend the skeleton program to allow the user to correctly identify targets in future expressions. So that's not a good description of the task. I gotta say, the way they specify, and crucially the way they give you test plans for ZigZag, just like deteriorates as the document progresses, it seems. Not up to their usual standard, I have to say. I think the code base threw them off a bit. But what this does is, right, let's say if I do 9 plus 6 and clear number 15 here, I should have the ability to add 15 or 1 or 5 into the numbers allowed list right here. At the next turn, which means we can't allow more than 5. We can increase to more than 5 values, which means that we'll tag whatever I choose. We choose one of those 3, right? And then if it's a single digit, or if it's divisible by 10, yeah, if it ends in a 0 essentially, right? Or we should have the ability to add 0 to numbers allowed. But when you think about it, why would you want zeros in the numbers allowed, as I've discovered on the stream? So anyway, we want to be doing that. So when you identify the target, it's going to give me the option to use the target or part of it in numbers allowed, display the target and component targets, to allow them to choose. So there's a little kind of new prompt for the user. Select it, add it to numbers allowed. Right, here we go. Boom, timer on. Poof, make that bigger. And take my original. And does this support? Yes. So when you hold, so it's like option on the Mac, but it's Alt on Windows machines, whatever. Like if you drag and drop, but you hold the modifier key, it copies. So I don't even need to use my keyboard shortcut. I'm going to still use return to rename, except I didn't, because the focus is in here. Sorry. Okay. Boom. Z. Or is it ZZ? Z7. It's ZZ7. I don't know. It's another Z7. Right, so we are here. Sorry, just a cat wants to be on my lap. It's quickly arranged. Right, what we want is when I have captured a target, for something kind of like around here, right? Like where you capture the target. This is where I kind of like, okay, task 7 or Z7. Whoa, okay, yeah, sorry, gotta disable all the robots. Yeah. I should do a video about like my coding. Suddenly I'm learning R with AI. I don't actually code in a language I know with AI, which is quite interesting, although I don't really, well, whatever, that's beyond the point at this stage. Let's, yeah, restart the extensions if we need them. Don't need that anymore, and then go. Right, so back here, I'm just going to put a Z7 so I can find it later on. So this is where we have captured the target. So this is where we want to kind of a target. Now I do think they do specify, because then there's the description and what you need to do. Oh, too big now. Let's do this like this. Still too big. Play game and check if user input evaluation is target, and then select value from target is a new one, right? So what we want is in here we're gonna presumably write like selected value is equal to select value from target. Actually, I'm going to start by creating this new method, which is not a method, it's a function, a procedure, it's a function, which displays the correctly identified. So we want something where I would give it 15 as an argument. It's annoying. And it would ask the user, oh, do you want 1, 5, or 15? And then, so let's just check it here so we can see it. Select value from target. So from target, right? So the only thing you pass is the target value. Let's call it target value. And what this will do will be if target value, which is an integer, if that's larger or equal to 10, I suppose, right? Okay, I'm gonna sort of make an options list to be displayed. Options is equal to the empty list, and if target value is, let's say if it's smaller than 10. Actually, I'm not gonna append stuff, whatever. I'm just gonna make two different things, right? Target value is lower than 10. We have the options being a list made of the target value and 0. Let's not question this. Else. So if it's larger than 10, we want to split it by numbers, which I'm going to do. So it's a classic thing, by the way, right? In section B, which is when you get 20 minutes to do just a self-contained coding task, you often have something where, where, you know, you kind of need to ask the user for a 4-digit number and then verify something arithmetically about those 4 digits. So it's useful to know how to decompose a number in Python. So let's say your number comes to you as a string. Let's call it S instead of N, right? And it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, there's a way where you do N is equal to int S, and then basically you kind of reinventing long division. So you know that the units is equal to N modulo 10. So there's 4 units, and then if you say, right, you say kind of like, then you subtract. What do I subtract? I subtract the units, and then you then say the tens are equal to whatever, and we've calculated modulo 100, except that of course you'll want, this is going to give you the tens, right? So in our instance is going to be 30, right? So you'll want to divide this by 10 to get that as a 3, but now you've got it as a double, right? It's a nightmare, right? Like the proper way to do it is you cast it as an integer, and then you do it arithmetically because you know arithmetics, right? You know arithmetics probably more than you know Python and string manipulation. But if you stay with the string and you can just go through it as a list, so if I say, I can, you know, list comprehension, if you will, right? Kind of, let's write it like this. List me a list of all of the characters for characters in the string. This is going to be this as a single thing that you can then cast to ints. That's kind of probably the cleanest way to do it, or you can split it, but it's going to return a list, whatever, right? Like that's kind of, even if you kind of cast it to a list, that's also, yeah, that also takes all of the elements. That's probably better than the list comprehension, because that's actually, yeah, this is the same thing. You cast it into a list, you're getting individual characters. And then if you want to like, if you want to build a list comprehension of all of the int of the characters for C in list, or for C and S straight up, right, actually, you've got this, and then you've got your numbers. So, or for C in S, or for C in list S, if you kind of want them. But it's the same thing, right? This string essentially is accessed as if it were a list, but it's not mutable. You can't change its value. Okay, so this is how you split a number, or a number that arrives to you as a string in Python, which is super useful to know. Else, we are going to say that our options are in the same capitalization, or what I've just kind of written, right? So the int of the character for each character in the target value. If there's duplicates, fine. It's not going to be useful to you because ultimately we display as many as they are, but like the user only chooses one, so it doesn't really matter. So that's an option, and then we are going to append, which you can do concatenate like that, right, with the target value itself. And that's it. We return options. No, sorry, we don't return options, right? I guess we print Can we just input what's my you cleared, so I can, well, I can, like, if you want to do it like that, you clear target value, and then we're going to make the choice be an input of pick from, and I mean, you know what, let's just kind of like just write it like this. That's not going to do any harm. And then if choice, sorry, if the choice comes back as a string, of course, if you in choice, cast it as an int, and if this integers is not in the options, which you have as integers, right, then tough luck, I guess, right? So what we're going to do is only actually, if the integer is in options, then we just return it, right? Else return none, I guess, like just so it's so clean. Yeah, but not actually written like Python though. Okay, so joins. Right. All right. So now we've selected the selected value. Actually, let's put this here, right? Because I want it to kind of, I want the game to refill the numbers a lot correctly, and then potentially add this selected value. I mean, we're just going to, yeah, not even, frankly, I'm not going to even put selected values. I'm going to say then numbers allowed. Is that gonna work with my none, right? You see what I mean? Because like that's the thing with, so for instance, pure functional programming will always return. It's not just returning, you need to always return. So if you have a function that's an if else in functional programming, it has to have an else, because you can't, you know, which means that in this instance, okay, let's have a look, right? So if I have a list and it's 1, 2, 3, no, with square brackets, obviously. Thank you. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then I append none. Yeah, it's a literal none, not helpful. So yeah, I'm gonna need to put in the variable fine. I didn't want it to kind of come to such extremes, but fine. Okay. So right, so we're back to this, right? Selected value becomes equal to select value from target to which I pass. So to which I pass the target value. I don't have the target values. I'll sort this out in a second. That's actually the trickier part of this task. And then if selected value is not, you can say is not none. There's something about is rather than equal for Boolean, and kind of none is kind of thing, but you can also say like, you know, say, or write this. So if the value is not equal to none, then we are going to take our numbers allowed and append to them the selected value. Cool. Now, next problem I have is the target value. At the moment, this is where we actually do the kind of meat of the evaluation. So we pass the RPN expression, we evaluate it, we pass the list of target, we verify whether it's a target or not by using the list. We might change the list of targets, right? But then what we return is the new score, and simply, did we hit the target or not? We don't know what the target value is. So I'm going to cheat, and when I'm going to do it, I'm going the clean way, because I did the kind of like quick and dirty way in the stream, which I need to put chapters on, but whatever, it's not like you're clear. So this is in this function, check if user input evaluation is a target. In here, right, so like right here is when we've got a match. We were kind of going through target with this iterator count, and if the value of the targets in targets list at this location is equal to whatever we evaluated, then boom, right, you've scored something, and then we put a blank one in there, and then this becomes equal to true. Okay, so I never have the target. Well, I could have this user input evaluation, right? Instead of returning true, bear with me on, no, okay, fine, sorry. Fine, okay, so we set target value, just like we assume the user input evaluation and not to be a target, so it's false, because if we go through the list without doing it, we'll state false. We're gonna assume this to be none. It won't matter because we're not using target value if we're not in that branch of the code anyway, right? So target value is none, but if we find it, just like we set it to true, set the boolean to true, we're gonna set the target value to, this doesn't exist anymore because I've just wiped it with a -1, so I'm going to use user input evaluation, which hopefully, right, they should be the same because we are in that branch of the code. And then I'm also going to return as a third, yeah, as a third argument, as a third return value, what do you call it, target value. Super. And you see now it's kind of cease being gray because that actually makes a difference to the outside of the function. This is kind of nice. Right, so in here, I will now recover, or, you know, kind of get back from the return of this function a target value that I'm putting in target value, and now I can do select from target value, and that should work. Famous last words. All right, we need to play the training game, and I just even forgot what we were doing. Oh no, like this is where like they didn't even, they just kind of gave up for the test. Like, yeah, just stand a random game and like just find an expression, and it needs to be target written online. So you only tested, they told you about the 0, you only test it for once. They don't show you how it should look or whatever, and what you should choose, you should really kind of verify that it adds it and whatever. Okay, fine. So 8 plus 3 minus 2. Boom. Okay, pick from options. Oh, input pick from options. Yeah, I can't do that. I can do a print pick from options, but I can't do an input pick from options with a, where is it? It was just there, wasn't it? Because fine, I'm turning into an F string and just putting this in between curlies inside the string, and now it's all much nicer. Random game then. I wish I hadn't done this. 3 plus, no, I can't do that. Never way around. 10 plus 10 times 2 plus 3. Boom. Okay, still not working. Ooh, sorry. In first target value. Yeah. When I showed how you do that, of course, this needs to be a string. So you need to cast this to a string, as I did when I demoed the Python a minute ago, right, in the console. Start it again. This is taking longer than I wished, but hey, it's not. It's a non-trivial one, I suppose. 42. Yes. 5 plus 1 times 7. Oh no, because it's still, I keep forgetting, it still works with the normal order of precedence, because in RPN we just can't do, we can't do that. No. Yeah, 3 times 10 plus 1. Cool, clear 31, pick from 3, 131, I put the 3 here. It's added it, so it's replenished. Yes, right, because I used, it's cleared the 1 for, oh yeah, because I used the 1, right? I used those last 3, it's cleared them, refilled it with 3 more, and then added the 3. If I kind of show off and clear, yes, now I can do this one, 42. I'm going to pick the bigger one this time, and etc. So like 42 plus 2. Actually, it does becomes a kind of better game. I don't know. I'm going to fix this and then we're kind of good to go. Cool. Let's have a look at the, and last time, 18, whatever. I mean, you know, what's the cut time? Have I got the compare? I don't have the compare. I select this one for compare, and I compare with selected. And that's your diff. There's randomly just a new line at the beginning, which, oh yes, because I pressed return to rename the thing. Cool. We have changed the signature, both of kind of, well, the return signature, I suppose, right, of check if user inputs evaluation, which now returns the target value, which may be none, but doesn't matter because we check on the Boolean, and then if we get here, we know it's an actual value, which we're going to pass to select value from target, this new function that will just give you the target value and 0. Still don't know why the 0 is helpful. We should test it with 0, it just completely breaks down. But still, they've not asked us to test for larger than 10, so we're fine. And otherwise, we cast the target value into a string, and then for each of these characters, cast to an int. That's your main list of options, and then we add the target value. We add it right with the brackets, because those are, we put into a list, and that you could also, I think you could just even do this syntax like this, right? But not with the plus at the end, right? But like think of this like you can't just, it's a list, and then you're putting something in the list. And we print the target value, and then you can pick from the options. We verify that the choice cast to an integer, right? Those are integers, is in options. If it is, we return it. If not, we return none. And then, yeah, sorry, I should have done this in order, right? Like when I mentioned we changed this, because I just did it in the right order here as well. But when I mentioned this, this is what we changed. We set the Boolean as to whether it is a target to false, so that if we drop down the bottom, it comes back at false. Set our target value to none, because we don't have any until we find one. And when we find one, which is in here, we're just going to put like, right, we set this target value to the user input validation, which was correct, and we return it as the third argument. And boom, that's, sometimes it's as simple as that, if you can believe it. I don't know how simple that was to you. Could this be asked on the, I mean, that isn't a bad task to ask about. This kind of almost wrapping. Yeah, no, I think that not in that ZigZag format with like the crappy test plans, like the complete lack of test plans, and like the sort of fuzzy specification and poor language, but like the change that we did, that would be a reasonable, I think, for like a, I mean, there's a bunch of changes, right? So that would kind of like, that'd be like a 12 marker or something. I don't know if that could be one of the bigger ones, but maybe something like this, right? We're playing with numbers, we're playing with inputs, right? You can have, there's ways of amending the game by changing kind of the numbers allowed list. That's definitely, because that's an easy one to make, and it's kind of a change to implement, and it's a conceptually interesting thing to do to the game, right? Like, and like this one was pretty good. When I had the 42, I could make 44. I'm kind of happy with this. I'm having fun with the AQA games. So yeah, is it going to be difficult? But like you may encounter a task of that complexity where there's like one new method function, and then there's one that you need to amend its return value and get that correctly, and then do the logic, and crucially how to split the thing. That's kind of a good sort of like chunky bits, and it's helpful to know, because whatever task you're gonna get as the 14 pointer, whatever like the last two are, then it's likely that you may need something that will touch those areas. Like how do you kind of, add stuff to, managing return values, because everything is done by kind of passing in and passing out. And, has the numbers list built? Like you notice I've added it after, because otherwise we kind of we're going to refill only up to 5, and we want it to be good. We want 5 little things like this, right? I'm sorry, that was a kind of long conclusion that I'm sure no one watches. Thank you. And remember, don't do like me, where I've kind of like scheduled the publishing of a whole bunch of videos I record at the same time, a little bit at regular intervals is probably the best way to work this. So I'm going to try doing this myself.